Lawyers, judges, and counselors in the family court systems navigate incredibly difficult human situations every single day of their lives. They constantly witness tragedy and have to make life-altering decisions that carry a massive emotional weight. Over time, strictly following the law can mean doing things that feel wrong to the person enforcing it. That friction creates what is known as moral injury, a heavy, cumulative toll on a professional's conscience. Reaching out for public or medical support isn't easy. For many in these roles, exposing that vulnerability feels like a direct threat to their professional reputation. They need a way to process the emotional strain of their work, but they also require strict privacy to protect their careers. CoTrack Pro was built to resolve this tension. Think of it as a private digital clubhouse, a self-guided space specifically designed for court professionals to process that moral injury. It is absolutely not a medical doctor. It doesn't provide clinical diagnoses, and it doesn't evaluate your job performance or grade your choices. CoTrack Pro is raw, open-source software that provides a highly private space, but the trade-off is that it cannot be found on a standard app store. Running it requires you to install a developer helper program called Node, specifically version 20, directly onto your local computer. With that technical barrier in place, we need to figure out who should actually spend the time to set this up. This flowchart maps your options for dealing with moral injury. You can risk privacy seeking public help, ignore it and face burnout, or use CoTrack Pro. Taking the CoTrack Pro route means choosing one of two different paths, depending on your role. Evaluating the software means first deciding if you are trying to manage your own personal burnout, or if you need to address the systemic stress of an entire team. Let's start with the individual practitioner. This is the stressed lawyer or counselor trying to load the tool onto their personal work computer. This matrix compares the two roles. For the individual, the main trade-off is the high setup friction required to guarantee absolute privacy. The practice room helps you build basic trigger and response habits, like setting up a plan for what to do when a specific stressor hits. And the commit room gives you a place to write out a promise to take care of yourself, which you can print and keep. These spaces are highly valuable for processing trauma, but they demand consistency and discipline from professionals who are already completely exhausted.
For the solo user, CoTrack Pro offers an incredibly private support system. You just have to trade your limited time to conquer the initial setup. Now, let's view this from the perspective of a department head focused on team retention and overall operational efficiency. Looking back at our matrix, the focus shifts to the team lead column. The setup friction drops for the end users, but the privacy level now requires high employee trust. Leaders get access to a specific tool called the calculator. This tool quantifies the actual financial cost of unchecked stress in your organization and calculates the return on investment when you actively support mental health. There is also a leaders' room designed to help bosses assess if their entire team feels safe and supported. These management features deliver abstracted data that clearly highlights systemic problems, but they do not actively solve the trauma of any individual employee. To actually deploy the tool to the team, organizations can use the specific protocols in the deploy document, having their IT department host the software on a server. This entirely bypasses the Node 20 technical requirement for the staff, turning the software into a simple, clickable web link. Centralized deployment makes optional community features available, like a public pledge wall, where the team can share their commitments. But this creates a critical problem. If your employees suspect that the IT department is monitoring their intimate reflections, the safety of that private clubhouse disappears, and engagement will immediately flatline. Leaders have the power to remove the technical friction for their staff, but the platform only works if the organization can absolutely guarantee anonymity. CoTrack Pro is a deeply considered toolkit for managing moral injury. Its architecture requires intentionality. It is not a casual one-click distraction. Let's run through a final checklist to help you decide if you should use it. First, you must either be comfortable installing basic developer tools yourself or have access to a dedicated IT department that can do it for you. Second, you are looking for a structured framework to process daily stress, and you are not expecting medical or psychiatric intervention. Third,
If you are a leader planning a company-wide rollout, your organization must have the capability to guarantee and communicate absolute anonymity. You should pass on this tool if you just want a simple mobile app, or if you are in an active mental health crisis that requires a doctor. It comes down to making a clear choice about your time and establishing hard boundaries for your professional bandwidth. The ideal individual user is a motivated practitioner who values total privacy above all else and is willing to push through the initial software setup. The ideal organizational user is a leader who wants to measure the true cost of burnout and has the IT resources to deploy the tool securely without compromising staff anonymity. CoTrack Pro's ultimate utility rests entirely on matching the correct deployment strategy to your specific technical constraints and your emotional needs.